You feel like your brain is a browser with 400 tabs open, and three of them are frozen while music is playing from somewhere you can't find. You are addicted to being busy, and it is actively destroying your ability to think. We live in a culture that treats busyness like a status symbol. If you are idle, you are failing. But why does checking emails at midnight feel like a moral victory? The answer lies in the dopamine loop of the modern workspace. In 1998, psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi popularized the concept of flow. It is that state where you are so immersed in a task that time seems to vanish. But busyness is not flow. Busyness is the opposite. It is a fragmented, frantic state of reactive processing. When you rush from one task to the next, your brain releases small hits of dopamine. This is the same neurotransmitter associated with gambling and substance abuse. Every time you clear a notification or finish a meaningless checklist item, your brain gets a tiny reward. You aren't being productive, you are being rewarded for being a high functioning lab rat. This is what researchers call the busyness paradox. We crave meaning, yet we prioritize motion. We substitute the feeling of progress for actual, measurable advancement. Consider the mere urgency effect. A 2017 study published in the Journal of Consumer Research found that people will prioritize tasks with arbitrary deadlines over tasks that are actually important. If you tell someone they have 10 minutes to finish a task, they will choose that over a task that takes 20 minutes but offers twice the reward. We are hardwired to pick the urgent over the significant. We are also terrified of the silence. In 2014, a landmark study from the University of Virginia found that participants would rather give themselves electric shocks than sit alone with their thoughts for 15 minutes. When you are busy, you don't have to confront the uncomfortable questions about your life, your goals, or your anxieties. You are hiding behind a wall of emails. This addiction has a clinical cost. The human brain is not designed for continuous partial attention. When you toggle between tasks, you suffer from attention residue. This term, coined by Sophie Leroy at the University of Minnesota, describes how your cognitive capacity doesn't shift immediately to a new task. A part of your brain remains stuck on the previous one. If you check your phone for 10 seconds while working on a report, your brain remains residually attached to that distraction for several minutes. Multitasking is just a myth we tell ourselves to feel efficient while we slowly lower our collective IQ. Think about the numbers. The average knowledge worker is interrupted every 11 minutes. Then it takes roughly 23 minutes to get back to the original depth of work. If you do the math, you are losing hours of peak cognitive performance every single day. You are literally paying for your own burnout with your most limited resource, focus. The busyness identity is the final trap. We have conflated our output with our worth. If you aren't tired, you aren't doing enough. We see this in the cult of the hustle. It was popularized in the tech industry throughout the 2010s, where sleep deprivation became a badge of honor. But biology does not care about your hustle. The prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for complex decision making and impulse control, is energy hungry. When you run on a treadmill of constant busyness, your brain stops allocating energy to the prefrontal cortex and shifts to the amygdala, the center of fight or flight. You aren't thinking creatively, you are reacting defensively. You aren't building a career, you are surviving your day. So, how do we break the addiction? First, implement the rule of three. Every morning, identify only three things that actually matter. Ignore the peripheral noise. If you finish those three things, the day is a success, regardless of how many emails remain in your inbox. Second, embrace the monotasking movement. In an age of distraction, the ability to focus on one thing for 60 minutes is a competitive superpower. It is the only way to produce work that matters. Third, recognize that boredom is not a failure. It is the incubation chamber for creativity. Every major breakthrough in human history came from someone who had the space to stare at a wall until an idea formed. We are currently suffering from a crisis of depth. We have allowed the urgent to cannibalize the important. We have mistaken the sound of a spinning wheel for the sound of movement. But here is the truth that the culture won't tell you. The world will not stop if you slow down. The emails will continue to arrive, the notifications will continue to blink, and the demands will never cease. You are not a machine designed to clear a queue. You are a human being designed to solve problems, create beauty, and connect. If you spend your entire life reacting to the demands of others, you will reach the end of it having checked every box, but having achieved nothing. You aren't busy because you have too much to do. You are busy because you have not yet decided what is truly worth doing. The next time you feel the urge to fill a quiet moment with a screen or a task or a distraction, stop. Sit with the discomfort. Ask yourself if the thing you are about to do is an act of creation or an act of avoidance. The noise is a choice. Silence is an option. And at the end of the day, the only metric that will define your life isn't how fast you moved, but where you ended up. Are you moving toward a destination or are you just running in place?